Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus, where we talk about all things sales, marketing, and technology. I'm Avon Collis, CRM and Marketing Automation Specialist at Relevate and all-around good guy. And today I am joined by Kim Willis from Persuasion Pursuit, here to talk about how to uncover the hidden stories in your business through amazing case studies and testimonials. Welcome, Kim. How are you going?
Yeah, great, Avon. Fantastic to be here.
Yeah, no worries at all. So I guess, one of the first sort of things we were talking about before we got on today was about the customer story and talking about the stories in business. A lot of people have things like testimonials or whatever. What are some of the stories that are in business from your...
Well, I'd say number one is customer stories. There's other types of stories, of course, including the story of your brand, story brand type content, etc. But people love to read and even watch customer stories. It gives them more confidence that they're going to make the right decision.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat the other day that people are 51% of the way through the buyer journey before they talk to a salesperson. I know that when I went and bought my motorbike, I watched about 20 YouTube videos or more on a whole range of things, and I'd picked it out purely by other people's stories. So what I guess is the the best type of story that you can hear or that you've heard?
Well, if we're talking about, there's different types of stories that we create. We're talking about customer-centric stories. So you've got, let's take the typical testimonial. You go to someone's website and normally you'll see half a dozen testimonials. That's fine, but in my experience, testimonials alone are probably not enough, particularly for businesses that are selling services, intangible products. Often the testimonials that I read are not very compelling. They've been badly written. They just don't sort of, hook the reader so well, and not enough detail. So if we, like I said, if we're dealing with service-based businesses, intangible type products, we've got to kind of we can't illustrate the product with pretty photos and nice videos and all the rest of it. So we've got to kind of bring it to life for people through content, and the best form of content is stories. So we've got at the lower end we've got testimonials, but one of the things that we do is sometimes we'll take that customer testimonial and then we'll enhance it. It's not the same as a full case study, but we will enhance it. So we'll give it a really good headline. We might give it a little bit of supporting text, introductory text. Then we'll quote the testimonial, and then we'll have a little bit of text at the end, kind of to finish it off. And then a photo of either the customer or some kind of visual thing. So that's an enhanced testimonial. The next sort of step up the ladder there is what I call a mini case study, whereby we'll write more. We'll tell something approaching a full story. So we talk about the pain points the pain that customer's experiencing. Maybe they had a lot of frustration dealing or finding a solution to this problem. Then all of a sudden they discovered XYZ company, and next thing they know, they're talking to them on the phone or something like that, and next step is they're buying. So we want to sort of a hero story kind of a narrative, but it's sort of a mini case study. It might be 500 words or something like that, and then at the top of the list would be the full case study. So the full case study would include 1,500 to 2,000 words, and usually what I like to do is to do an interview with the customer, with the client, and see if we can extract some insights from the client, get really clear about it, because it's one thing for the business owner to tell me what he thinks the client's story was, but sometimes clients have got a different idea altogether. So when we interview them as a third party, not as a vested interest, such as the person that sold them the product, but as a third party, it's amazing how often they open up. When I do these interviews, they'll usually last about 20 minutes, something like that. And it's amazing how much they open up, and they reveal some fantastic insights, sometimes a little bit of negative feedback, but even though they're happy customers, but something maybe not saying negative, but say a little bit of helpful advice on how to improve things next time. So we will then we'll package that up, and we'll let the business know. We'll let the owner or whoever's engaged us. We'll say, look, they're raving fans, no doubt about it, but they came up with they shared some insights. I'm not sure whether you're aware of their real problems, their real underlying problems. We share that, and then if there's a little niggling concern overall, they're 95% very happy with the experience, but that 5%, we'll share that with the business owner, so they get some valuable insights themselves about maybe how they can improve the service next time. And so from there, we'll take that video, we'll edit it, and then we'll extract video snippets from those stories, and then from the master, and then those video snippets can be incorporated in, or they can be featured on the business website. Various different ways of leveraging the content. So we put with the full case study, we write the content 1,500 to 2,000 words, and then we insert one or two of the video snippets from the interview, and do a bunch of other things, get the designer in, and they make it look all pretty, etc. So yeah, that's basically the three main options. Take at the bottom end, take an existing customer testimonial and give it some more oomph. So that alone can make a big difference, say, to a website or
I think it's interesting, like you mentioned at the start that there's lots of stories, and I know that when people are looking at businesses, they're not always looking just at the products, but what the company stands for or how they treat their staff. That's becoming much more important. And I think that having that depth in the quality of the content that's being put on there, a lot of times most business owners probably stop at that mini case study where they've done the 500 words, they're too busy doing the other things, so they didn't really go too much further. And you can definitely understand that the bias comes from their perspective of how the conversation went. That's absolutely correct. And I think that, like what you're saying with that third party review, that sounds pretty incredible that, you give the feedback back to the company as well, because, even companies that, have multi-million dollars worth of revenue to spend on, they're always paying a third party to do a review on who the target market is, what they feel, think, all those sorts of things, because, those ideals change, and, you won't get them from the customer direct. Absolutely.
Yeah, it works very well.
And you're talking about the intangible natures of services, and from a marketing perspective, it's not something that you can experience until you've already experienced it. So you tend to rely on the opinions and thoughts of others. So in terms of building trust, why do stories convert more than others?
Well, there's an old saying, and it goes something like this: people remember stories long after facts and figures have been forgotten. It's in our nature. We love stories from a young, from the infant stage right up to adulthood. We're constantly hearing stories. Nations have stories. The story of a nation, how it was founded, and all the rest of it. In like our country, Australia, they have some controversy about it now, but there is a day where the birth of the nation is kind of celebrated. America does the same thing. All countries, well, most countries do this kind of thing. So brands have a story, nations have a story, communities, tight-knit communities have a story, and of course customers have stories, and those stories need to be heard. They need to be heard to the full extent, particularly for like as you're saying, services, high-ticket services. I don't think we need to do full case studies for a plumbing business unless it was a high-ticket, incredibly new process or something like that for the corporate sector. But no, for those types of services, probably not. But like whereas it's a high-ticket, there's a very strong intangible nature aspect to it. Yeah, the people want the detail. They're going to spend 10 grand or 5 grand or $100,000. They want information, and they're hungry for it.
It's interesting you say that with, in particularly new services or new types of ways of doing things. It's interesting to think about, like when you've got a net new product or a net new, concept or innovation, how hard it is to get people to basically adopt that method and, or adopt that product or service. They want to understand, what it is that they're getting themselves into, because they don't know many people that have experienced that. And, I guess if it's have you ever dealt with Telstra before? You could probably ask the person next door or anybody in the street. It's pretty common, but for some things, it's quite rare. We talked before about copywriting and that sort of thing. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot of content online, and I guess part of it is good with like SEO keywords, but also who's going to sit down and read 1,000 or 2,000 words?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Even before I became an online marketer, I used to get that question about long form copy. And the skeptics will say, "Oh, people don't read long form." They might also add that, I couldn't read something like that. And then I'd say to them, if let's say it was a friend or something like that, I'd say, "Have a look at this piece here." They say, "I wouldn't read this." I say, "But are you a customer now? Are you somebody who is intending to purchase this type of a product?" They say, "No." I say, "Of course." So you're not going to read it. Why would you read it? It's not relevant. So you'll only read it when it's relevant, and when you're in buy mode, when you're really serious about it, that's when you want the extra detail. And of course, people consume content in different ways. That's why we often include some video as well. But the great thing about text-based content is that people, if they choose, they can scan. So we break up the content into so they can scan down the headline of which one. Oh, I see this. Oh, I better read the supporting text about that, right? They may not read the whole thing, but they get a sense that, wow, this is an incredible story. And of course, if we open the story, we've got a good headline at the top, a good subheadline at the top, and then we open it. The opening sequence is critically important, of course, and use like hero story kind of methodologies, and it helps to make it more compelling, almost addictive. And so people will tend to keep reading. And then they might scan down the next bit of text and they see the next headline, subheadline, oh, I like this part, and then they read that bit and so on. So not everybody is going to devour every single word of a 2,000 word piece. They will select which parts are for them. Just one thing, Avon, before I hand it back to you, is one thing I thought of, and that is case use. So particularly with high-tech, programs or service-based programs or service packages or offers, there's a degree of complexity with some of these services and products, and so there are different case uses. So ideally, what a business should do is that they should have maybe, let's say, what are the three most important problems that customers experience when purchasing this type of service. All right, if we could have a case study for problem number 1, case study for problem number 2, and a case study for problem number 3. And it could be from 3 different people, 3 different customers. And then, so when they visit someone's website and they see this problem being solved over here, and then this other problem, then the customer will pick the problem that's most relevant to them, and they just hone in on that, they zero in on that, and they read, that particular piece, and that will also help to improve the conversions. As relevant and as laser targeted as possible.
It's funny you mentioned that, because there's a stat that I commonly fall to and use that says people who discuss or sort of deal with 3 to 4 buyer problems early on in the conversation are much more likely to close the sale, because that conversation's already been had, even like through the text, through the marketing materials, rather than leaving it to the salesperson who feels on the back foot, or maybe they're having an off day and they've got to talk that person around, but now the content can do it for them. And when we're talking about that long form copy, I kind of baited you with that question, but there's an acronym on the internet, was TLDR, too long didn't read. And like you said, making it highly skimmable, that those attention bits that stand out, not like this massive wall of text where it's really hard to find, all those nuggets of gold that person's looking for. Maybe there's a point there that says, when I looked at the price, it seemed a lot, but compared to all the other people I've tried in the past, it was nothing, just to know that everything was going to be fine at the end, or that they knew that they were doing, or that the quality was going to be there. So even just talking about things like that prestige price can be a bit of a game changer, for high ticket. Everyone knows you get what you pay for, but you've got to call it out sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great stuff.
Well, that's been absolutely fabulous. I think that it's really important for people to understand all of the bits that go into making someone say yes. You can spend thousands on Google ads. You can then, try to optimize all your images. But, at the end, you're dealing with a human, and a human's got to make a decision. So if they're not going to be positive towards that, then they're not going to rip out their wallet and make the purchase. I really appreciate having you here today. That's been absolutely amazing. So thank you for listening. And if you would like to find out more about persuasive customer stories and how to use them in your business, then you can go to persuasionpursuit.com. As always, it'll be linked in the episode comments along with Kim's LinkedIn URL. So thank you very much for listening to the podcast. And if you have any questions or you'd like to be on the show, please check out relevate.com.au and fill out the contact form. Otherwise, thank you for listening and take care.